Okay, forget needing fancy gadgets or, rare ingredients for a moment. Picture this instead. You're actually holding the key to a 5,000-year-old secret, something neuroscientists are now validating, even calling it the most powerful brain-hacking technology ever discovered. And it's been right here, literally under your nose the entire time.
And the incredible thing, that really isn't hyperbole. I mean, the sources we looked at are just packed with data, showing this ancient practice can genuinely, well, melt stress, sharpen your mind, boost your energy, and even kickstart healing processes deep inside your body.
It's this kind of wild convergence, isn't it? For millennia, these practices felt almost mystical. Imagine yourself transported, maybe you're in a misty Himalayan monastery, feeling that thin mountain air, watching a master demonstrate pranayama, maybe that inhale 4, hold 16, exhale 8 pattern, just radiating a calm that seems almost impossible. Or picture walking through a sun-drenched courtyard in ancient India. The air's thick with jasmine. Saffron-robed yogis there saw breath control not just as some ritual, but as a really precise method, a way to unlock human potential.
And it wasn't just confined to those traditions, right?
Not at all. Think of tranquil Chinese gardens. Taoist sages believing harmonizing breath with nature balanced, the body's life energy.
Right.
Or journey further to ancient Greece. Philosophers there saw breath, pneuma, as the vital link, the bridge between body and soul, the secret to vitality and insight.
So for thousands of years, they insisted specific ways of breathing could influence mood, health, even consciousness itself.
Exactly. Claims that, modern science largely ignored for a long time, until the age of brain imaging really gave us new tools to look inside.
And that's the big shift, isn't it? Suddenly you have Harvard researchers studying these ancient monastic practices with the same rigor they'd apply to, like particle physics.
And you see Navy SEALs integrating breathing techniques older than the pyramids into their training for peak performance under just extreme stress.
It's exactly that point where ancient wisdom meets modern data. Neuroscience is finally providing the how and the why behind these practices, showing precisely what's happening in your brain and your body.
And that's exactly what we're diving into today. We've gathered a stack of research papers, articles, notes, to really uncover what your breath is actually doing based on the data presented in these sources.
And the core idea the sources keep coming back to is this. Your breath is so much more than just an automatic function keeping you alive. It's an incredibly precise, powerful tool, like a master switch.
A master switch.
Yeah, for your stress response, your immune system, your ability to focus, to create. It's essentially sophisticated brain rewiring technology that's accessible to you at any moment.
Brain rewiring technology. That sounds pretty bold. So where do the sources show modern neuroscience first validating these ancient claims? On a structural level, perhaps?
Okay, this is where it gets really fascinating. One of the key starting points is Dr. Sarah Lazar's work. Groundbreaking stuff at Massachusetts General Hospital. Using fMRI scans, her team looked at the brains of people who regularly practice breathing exercises and meditation.
Right. And what did they actually find when they looked inside?
It was remarkable, really. As early as 2005, they discovered these practitioners had measurably thicker cortical regions.
Thicker.
Yeah, and it is crucial for attention, memory, and emotional regulation. It wasn't just a feeling. Their brain structure was physically different.
Wow.
It's like you're literally sculpting key parts of your brain just by changing how you breathe consciously.
Physically thicker areas that suggests actual growth or strengthening in those really critical cognitive regions.
Exactly. And Dr. Lazar's follow-up studies just solidified this. Research published back in 2011 showed that just 8 weeks of focused breathing meditation led to measurable increases in gray matter density in the hippocampus, vital for learning and memory.
Right.
And maybe even more significantly, a measurable shrinking of the amygdala.
The fear center.
The brain's alarm center, yeah. The seat of fear responses. That's powerful physical evidence of the impact on both stress and mental clarity.
Okay, so it changes the actual hardware, the structure.
Yeah.
But the sources also talk a lot about changing the brain's state and its function. How does breath influence that?
Right, so shifting from structure to function, we see these incredible findings, like those from Dr. Judson Brewer at Yale. He found that practices like specific pranayama techniques actively quiet down your brain's default mode network.
Ah, the DMN. That busy, often anxious network, right? The mind wandering, the worry.
That's the one. The constant internal chatter. Conscious breathing seems to turn down the volume on that.
Like a dimmer switch for anxiety.
That's a great way to put it. And the fMRI data in the sources also shows that regular breathing practices actually strengthen connections between the insula, that's the part that helps you feel what's happening inside your body, and the prefrontal cortex, your executive control center.
Okay, so better connection there means?
It literally enhances interoception, your ability to perceive internal signals, which is strongly linked to higher emotional intelligence. You just get better at understanding what your body and mind are telling you.
Making you more tuned, more aware internally. What about brain waves? Do they shift?
Absolutely. The research in our sources, including work from Dr. Andrew Huberman at Stanford, points to controlled breathing actively shifting brainwave activity. You can consciously move from those faster, often anxious beta waves towards slower, more relaxed alpha states.
The creative zone.
Exactly. The state associated with creativity, insight, accessing that flow state more readily.
Like unlocking different operational modes for your brain.
Precisely. And other studies using EEG show that certain techniques, like breath retention specifically, can boost gamma wave activity. The sources link gamma waves to those aha moments, peak awareness, states of deep concentration. There's also research highlighting how, say, alternate nostril breathing can create a measurable balance between the two brain hemispheres, harmonizing logic and intuition potentially. That's linked to Dr. Richard Brown's work.
Interesting. And what about just basic focus, paying attention?
Even the brain's core attention system is impacted. Sources reference studies on practitioners, including Tibetan monks, showing increased activation in the locus coeruleus when they focus on their breath.
The locus coeruleus, that's like the brain's steering wheel for attention, right?
Essentially, yeah. The primary hub for directing attention and vigilance. It gets a workout.
Okay, that's a really comprehensive picture of brain changes, structure, function, attention. Let's pivot a bit. What about the physical body? Especially something like stress. The sources mention some pretty dramatic numbers there.
Oh, definitely. This is where those ancient claims about breath and well-being find really striking modern validation. Dr. Justin Feinstein's research, for instance, his work found that controlled breathing could reduce cortisol levels by a remarkable 68%.
Wait, 68%?
In just 30 minutes.
Wow. Cortisol, the main stress hormone.
Yep.
That's an incredibly powerful lever for stress management.
It really is. And the sources also highlight simpler techniques too, like the physiological sigh.
The double inhale, long exhale.
Exactly. It's shown to rapidly purge excess carbon dioxide, reset your nervous system, and help reduce not just cortisol, but also inflammatory markers like IL-6, which are tied to burnout.
And this brings us to the vagus nerve, right? That famous brain-body connection.
Absolutely crucial. The vagus nerve is often described as this critical highway. Specific breathing patterns, according to Dr. Stephen Porges's polyvagal theory, which is referenced a lot, they turn it into a superhighway.
Yeah.
It helps you shift from your survival mode, that fight or flight response, into your social engagement system, a state of calm, connection, safety.
It's like a biological override switch for panic or high stress.
That's a good way to think about it. And techniques like the 4-7-8 breath are specifically highlighted for enhancing vagal tone.
Strengthening the vagus nerve's response.
Essentially, yeah. Strengthening its capacity to rapidly trigger the relaxation response.
Yeah.
And we can actually measure this capacity.
How?
Through heart rate variability, or HRV.
Ah, HRV. That's a key marker people track now for health and resilience, isn't it?
It's a really powerful biomarker, yes. And the sources really emphasize its connection to breathwork. Brain scans demonstrate that controlled breathing dramatically boosts HRV, and HRV is considered one of the strongest predictors of emotional resilience and overall mental health.
So better HRV means you can handle stress more effectively, bounce back quicker.
Precisely. You have more physiological flexibility. It's like upgrading your body's internal stress management OS. One specific technique, coherent breathing, that's around 5 breaths per minute, is shown to increase HRV by 19%. And the sources link this improved HRV to lower risk of things like heart disease and burnout.
19% increase. That's significant.
It is. The sources even mention things like the mammalian dive reflex.
Dive reflex on dry land.
Yeah. It's an ancient mechanism triggered by slow exhales that can drop your heart rate by up to 20%, even when you're not in water. It's your body's innate calming system kicking in.
Okay.
Plus, meta-analyses of breathwork studies suggest it positively modulates GABA receptors in the brain.
GABA, the calming neurotransmitter.
Exactly. Part of the body's natural calming system. Some research even compares its efficacy for panic attacks favorably to pharmaceuticals like SSRIs, but without the side effects.
Mind sculpting, anxiety reduction, stress management. Okay, I'm following. But immunity, cellular health, that still feels like, well, a huge jump.
It definitely felt that way to many scientists too, until the research started really catching up. The Wim Hof method, which is heavily featured in some of the source material, really challenged a lot of assumptions here. Studies definitively proved that practitioners using his specific breathing techniques could voluntarily influence their own immune systems.
They could control their immune response just by breathing.
That's what the landmark 2014 PNAS study demonstrated, yeah. Wim Hof practitioners were able to consciously suppress inflammatory responses and boost levels of anti-inflammatory compounds at the same time.
Wow.
Imagine your immune system's inflammatory cells, like maybe overzealous security guards. Specific breathwork techniques can essentially signal them to calm down, to not overreact or attack healthy tissue.
That's pretty revolutionary. It changes how we think about that mind-body connection and our own health, fundamentally.
It really does. And Dr. Mladen Golubic's findings, also cited, show that specific breathing interventions can reduce markers of inflammation and boost immune function in as little as 4 weeks.
4 weeks? That's faster than many medications take effect.
Exactly. The sources describe the mechanism involving these breath-activated cholinergic anti-inflammatory pathways, basically the vagus nerve signaling immune cells to modulate their response.
So your breath has a direct line, a communication channel to tell your immune system how to behave.
It certainly seems that way based on this research. And let's not overlook simpler mechanisms the sources mentioned too, like just the production of nasal nitric oxide during healthy breathing through your nose.
Nitric oxide, what does that do?
Well, this molecule actually kills pathogens before they even reach your lungs. And research linked in the sources suggests this simple mechanism, just breathing properly through your nose, can reduce the frequency of common colds by 34%.
Just by breathing through your nose correctly, you're less likely to get sick.
It's like your body's built-in air purification and first line of defense system.
Okay. And cellular health, that aging clock thing.
Right. Dr. Alyssa Eppel's research at UCSF, which was highlighted, found that regular pranayama practitioners experienced a significant 43% surge in telomerase activity.
Telomerase. Remind me, that's the enzyme that protects the ends of our chromosomes, the telomeres, linked to aging.
Exactly right. Telomeres are like the protective caps, and telomerase is the enzyme that protects and rebuilds them. A 43% surge is, well, it's extraordinary. It's suggesting an impact on your cellular aging process in a very positive way.
Slowing down time, biologically speaking.
In a sense, yes. And furthermore, there's emerging epigenetic research mentioned. It suggests breathing practices can actually influence gene expression, potentially switching on genes associated with stress resilience and longevity. Your breath becomes like a master genetic switch.
Mind, stress, immunity, cellular aging. Okay, is there anything the sources don't link breathwork to? What about, say, energy, physical performance, strength?
The connection is definitely there too. Dr. Otto Music's PET scans on Wim Hof practitioners showed specific techniques significantly increase brain glucose metabolism.
More fuel for the brain.
Right, more energy available for your brain. And they also activate your body's built-in pain control centers.
Okay, more brain fuel, less pain perception. Makes sense.
And the sources, including some references to ancient texts, talk about breath retention, holding the breath-giving strength. Think about it. You instinctively hold your breath when you lift something heavy, right? Or when you swallow, or even when you exert force in other ways.
That's true, yeah. You brace, you hold your breath without thinking.
Exactly. The sources emphasize that this unconscious act of stopping the motion of breath gives you strength. You're unknowingly practicing this innate form of pranayama many times a day, and it's tied directly to exerting physical force.
Huh. It's an inherent part of how our bodies generate power.
It seems to be. And the sources mention how specific techniques like cyclical hyperventilation followed by breath hold can spike levels of erythropoietin, EPO.
EPO, that's the hormone endurance athletes use. Multiplies red blood cells.
That's the one. It's like turning your body into a high-altitude training machine right in your living room, just through breathing patterns.
That's a pretty powerful performance boost, potentially.
Definitely. And for mental energy and resilience, the sources discuss how that same cyclical hyperventilation floods the system with DDNF.
Brain-derived neurotrophic factor, miracle grow for neurons.
That's the stuff. Crucial for preventing cognitive decline, boosting mental toughness. It's also shown to sustainably boost dopamine levels by about 25%, providing that intrinsic motivation fuel but without the crash you get from artificial stimulants.
So natural mental energy and resilience enhancement. What about just optimizing how you use oxygen generally?
Well, the Buteyko method, which is discussed in the sources, focuses on that, breathing less air, but more efficiently. By balancing blood pH, it actually improves how well your cells utilize oxygen, increasing mental clarity.
It sounds counterintuitive. Breathe less to get more oxygen where you need it.
It does, but the data points to its effectiveness for energy and focus. It's about efficiency.
Okay, wow. So we've covered structural brain changes, shifting brain states, dramatic impacts on stress hormones, the vagus nerve, influencing immunity, cellular aging, boosting energy, performance. The sources mention so many specific techniques: Pranayama as a general term, 4-7-8, Wim Hof, box breathing like the Navy SEALs use, alternate nostril, Buteyko, coherent breathing, Jai, physiological size, even holotropic for altered states. It sounds like a vast landscape.
It really is. But I think the key takeaway from the sources is that these are all different pathways, different techniques, but they're targeting the same fundamental mechanisms. Using conscious control of your breath to influence your nervous system, your hormones, your immune system, your brain function. And they range from ancient practices used by yogis for millennia to modern techniques adopted by elite athletes, by Silicon Valley executives looking for that mental edge.
And across all these different methods, what's maybe the most powerful takeaway?
I think it has to be the accessibility. As the sources repeatedly emphasize, this incredible tool isn't external, it's not expensive. It's the most basic function you perform, around 20,000 times every single day.
Right.
It requires no equipment, costs nothing. It's available to you every single moment. The sources even point out, like we discussed, that you're already performing actions that involve stopping or controlling your breath, like swallowing or lifting, demonstrating that some form of pranayama is just innately accessible to everyone.
It's something already wired into us, baked in.
It really is. And the call from these sources isn't necessarily about mastering complex rituals overnight. It's often just about starting with awareness. Simply taking a few minutes for conscious, slow breathing can begin to tap into these incredibly powerful effects.
So here we are at this amazing intersection where, 5,000 years of human wisdom meets the sharp lens of modern neuroscience. It seems really clear from the data we've discussed that your breath isn't just sustaining life. It's a sophisticated, inherent system for regulating stress, optimizing cognitive function, maybe even transforming your state of consciousness.
It's definitely far more than just simple relaxation. It's scientifically validated technology for rewiring your brain and body, unlocking your potential.
Your breath is your birthright, then. A direct link to millennia of accumulated wisdom and the cutting-edge benefits science is confirming today. Based on these sources, it really is arguably the most powerful and accessible technology you possess.
And maybe as we wrap up this deep dive, here's a thought to carry with you, drawing on everything we've uncovered today. Ancient masters, yogis, sages, they revered breath. They treated it as sacred. Because they seem to understand on some profound level what modern fMRIs, lab studies, and all this data analysis now confirm. That conscious breathing doesn't just affect you, it fundamentally reshapes your brain and your body.
Right. So if simply changing something as fundamental as automatic as how you inhale and exhale can unlock this level of potential for focus, for resilience, for health, what does that imply about the other seemingly simple daily functions we perform without a second thought? What other innate, powerful abilities might be waiting just beneath the surface within each of us, ready to be rediscovered?